He's a big threat to the world. I don't like drawing red lines, but I act if I have to act.
He's got a serious policy in place that is to squeeze the North Koreans.
We're at this point right now because all the smart people, all the elites in the foreign policy establishment have failed.
Mayday, and it got rocky in the 250 cities across the globe.
They just as soon see a revolution in the United States.
Hours from now, a pair of turbulent hearings as United and American Airlines face the music following violent cabin confrontations.
We're 5 months away from having a 2018 budget, and I think the president's priorities will be reflected much more in that.
Urgent warning for Americans traveling to Europe. ISIS could be coming for you.
Prompting this warning, remember there have been 6 attacks since June of last year.
Fox and Friends in the morning, the ratings have gone through the roof, much more than any morning show, because people find that it's honest.
White House as we play the music over the shot of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Welcome aboard, folks, live from Studio E. It's the program the president was just talking about.
Do you ever think about doing a show, less news, more music, where we just toss to different videos?
I think that's called MTV.
Oh.
Used to be MTV.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Isn't that, I don't know, isn't that just a reality show?
Now it's Pandora.
Really?
You have Pandora on your phone?
Really? I guess, yeah. So I'm not sure what MTV's doing. Can we switch channels?
They do reality shows.
Oh, they do? Mm-hmm. All right. For young kids.
No kidding.
Meanwhile, we have a budget to talk about. We have a North Korean standoff to deal with. But first things first.
Straight to the
streets.
Fox News alert. Violent rioters attacking police officers, destroying businesses in several nationwide Mayday marches.
That's right. That's just in this country. Meanwhile, several self-proclaimed anarchists are under arrest.
Yeah, this is a trend that's continuing. Griff Jenkins live in D.C. with the latest. Hey, Griff.
Hey, Brian, Angel, and Steve, good morning. From coast to coast, Mayday protests turned violent. Tens of thousands of protesters attacking police officers and destroying businesses from the Pacific Northwest to Chicago to New York City in what is traditionally a labor march. In Portland, Oregon, self-proclaimed anarchists flooded the streets, setting fires and throwing smoke bombs and Molotov cocktails at law enforcement. A rioter seen wearing a ski mask, tossing a live flare into a police cruiser. 25 people dressed head to toe in black now under arrest for arson and assault there. And in Chicago, thousands of protesters marching through the streets. And in New York City, there where you are, more than 30 people arrested for refusing to disperse and take off those masks, which is illegal in New York City. And here in Washington, protesters gathered at the White House demanding Donald Trump has got to go. Even DNC Chairman Tom Perez addressed that unruly crowd. Several officers across the country, guys, were injured in these riots, but so far all reports are that they are going to be okay. These demonstrations are held annually to celebrate International Workers' Day, but yesterday it was anything but a celebration. And I should point out, just a note, having covered a lot of these protests, those folks in black are known as Antifa or anti-fascist, and they intend to continue this sort of activity throughout the administration of Donald Trump.
Yeah, what country are they for? They started this anarchy. They've been starting this around the world in Western democracies for quite some time. What exactly do they want, Griff?
Well, they simply want Donald Trump not to be president anymore. I certainly saw that loud and clear in the inauguration riots that I covered. And their message was resist at every possible opportunity the presidency of Donald Trump.
Right. That's right. They could vote and put a shirt on.
They were saying, not my president. All right, Griff, thank you very much.
Doing anything they can to ensure that he's not successful, blocking every single thing, anything that he's for.
Much like Democrats in the House yesterday, as I guess on Capitol Hill yesterday, as they were reveling in the fact that they feel as though they got a lot in this budget deal, essentially the framework of which was laid by President Obama.
They did get a lot, and they got a lot of words, too. This is 1,665 pages. It is actually twice as long as Barack Obama's stimulus package. Now, here's the thing. Yesterday, the House leadership said, okay, before we vote on it, we're going to put it online, 72 hours. So every member of Congress can read it. But at this length, the average member of Congress would have to read 555 pages a day for 3 days. Do you think they're going to do that?
Let's do some highlights and tell you what's in it.
All right, so there's not a border wall, no money for the border wall, no deportation force. Another one that I thought was interesting, it protects the sanctuary cities.
It does.
Yeah, the environmental rollbacks and the cutback in the EPA, which was endorsed by the new director of the EPA, Mr. Pruitt.
Have we talked to the PGA about it? They may be for it too.
I really think they should stay out of it because golf has no place in this budget. I believe you should golf with your own money.
I think the commander-in-chief loves golf courses.
Right, that's a good point, Steve.
Well, then in that case, the Democrats will block it.
Right, absolutely. It'll fund Planned Parenthood. It'll fund Medicaid for Puerto Rico, who was protesting yesterday, by the way. Yeah. So they get another $350 million to bail out their Medicaid system. So the question is, what the president get? He got some money for defense, but I believe that helps the country, and I think he does get some money for border security. But the symbolic denial of the wall, because the president ran on it, and to see Nancy Pelosi revel in it, is counterintuitive to those who care about the country.
Democrats are like, we'll allow you to have more money for border security. We'll allow you to have more money for drones.
Just not the way you wanted.
Just not the wall. As long as you don't get what you wanted, then we're okay with it.
Well, the White House says this is their strategy, getting the best deal they can right now. In the same week, they're going to try to take on health care. But here's the thing. The Democrats are actually celebrating in a big way because they say what they have gotten in this particular omnibus appropriation is they are confident going forward they're going to be able to block all sorts of Donald Trump's agenda for years to come. Because here's what happened. The Republican leadership in the House knows that they are not united. The Republicans are not united. So they've got to work with the Democrats. And when you bring the Democrats in, you wind up getting a whole bunch of stuff they want. You get some stuff, they get some stuff, because there simply is a minority of Republican members of Congress unwilling to support any sort of spending. And so if you in a spending bill, there's going to be money. And so rather than be at loggerheads with your own party, the Republicans have dealt in the Democrats, and now the Democrats are so excited that they got so much stuff out of this thing.
But the Republicans are scared of shutting down the government, and they're scared of getting the blame for shutting down the government. They don't think they can make an effective argument, even though they got one of the finest communicators of the last 10 years in President Trump. Just look at what happened in Pennsylvania. And I think at some point they're going to have to shut it down and reconfigure the spending. We're already over budget almost $500 billion annually. Every time we go to rein in some budget some costs, we end up adding to it. So here we go. Here we go again. Leading up to health care, you have a situation where the Democrats got a lot for considering they are flat on their backs politically.
Yeah, the government is not shutting down, though. That's the good news, and this is all just a process.
Sure, absolutely. The Republicans were desperate for a win after the struggle over health care a couple of weeks ago, and so they regard this as a win because the government not shutting down, even though it's a very low bar. Right. This week, they would like to vote on health care again. The problem is, at this point, they do not have the votes. Donald Trump sat down yesterday morning at 9:30 with Eric Bolling for the new show, the specialist right here on Fox News Channel, and they talked a little bit about what's going to happen this week with health care.
We're either going to have a great plan or I'm not signing it. I don't want to set deadlines. I think it's going to be approved. It could be soon, but it could be not so soon. It's going to happen. But remember this, I've been really focused on this for like 7 weeks. That's 17 months.
So 19 Republicans are currently opposed to the bill. 17 are undecided. That according to a Wall Street Journal survey. Overall, I think they're within 5. And the question is, do you just get out of the House, let the Senate work with it, get to phase 2 with Tom Price, Health and Human Services Secretary, to shape it a little bit more towards maybe an overall more profitable view? But there's a lot of moderates who say, wait a second, we're not covering. And the question is, are you covering pre-existing conditions? The MacArthur Amendment allows states to opt out of it. That allowed the Freedom Caucus to get into it. The moderates say, then I'm out of it. And the question is, the president says, if that's not in it, I'm not involved in it. So there's a little bit of confusion.
I think the president's realizing all the red tape you have to go through to get Congress to pass something. He's saying he's not going to sign this bill if he doesn't like it.
Right.
That's right. And according to thehill.com, in their morning edition, they say there are 21 Republicans opposed to it. That's the maximum number. One more, it doesn't go anywhere.
All right. Meanwhile, let's talk about the president, and let's talk about how he ended his interview with John Dickerson. They had dinner together. They flew on Air Force One together. They went to a rally together, but they didn't end well together. You want proof? Watch when Dickerson was using follow-up after follow-up when it came to surveillance.
I just wanted to find out, though, you're the president of the United States. You said he was sick and bad because he had tapped you.
You can take it any way you want.
But I'm asking you, because you don't want it to be fake news. I want to hear it from President Trump.
You don't have to ask me.
Why not?
Because I have my own opinions. You can have your own opinions.
But I want to know your opinions. You're the president of the United States.
It's enough. Thank you. Thank you very much.
He's like, you're right. I am the president of the United States. Get out. I'm done.
Yeah, because he had asked, just before that, he had asked, so when you bombed Syria, did you call President Obama for advice? And it's like, well, it started out okay. And then we found out that they were watching us with their surveillance. Meanwhile, yesterday, as I mentioned a moment ago, Eric Bolling sat down with the president and they were talking about news coverage. And there's some good news and some bad news in there. Listen to this.
I give the media an F. Other than, I will say there are certain, and I'm not doing this because I'm on your show, I don't care. Fox has been very fair. Not perfect. I mean, I get hit sometimes on Fox pretty hard, but Fox has been at least fair. Fox and Friends in the Morning I just read a fantastic story that their ratings have gone through the roof, much more than any morning show, because people find that it's honest, not because they're good to me or bad to me. They find it's honest, so I congratulate, because they're great people on Fox and Friends.
Well, that's so nice. When we do try to be fair. We try to be fair. I think we're nice people. We do thank you for the ratings. The ratings are through the roof. He's right about that, and that's because of you. Why do you choose to watch us? Maybe because we want this country to succeed, and we care about America.
Right. I know why people watch. I found out on Friday.
Why is that?
I read Politico. It turns out we use a 1980s psychological trick to hypnonize people to watch us.
Right.
Did you read that story?
No.
Yeah. They have us as cartoon characters, and we use a 1980s psychological method, which we all work on since the 80s, to convince people and hypnotize them to watch us.
Oh, like when you're in the stores, they say that the music that you're listening to makes you buy more?
Right.
All right, so maybe the music Toba's playing, there you go.
Well, actually,
Look into my eye.
This will probably remind people of Star Trek. All right, anyway, thank you very much for watching us on this very busy Tuesday. Coming up, Senator Chuck Schumer stumped. Why can't he answer this question?
Lots of people.
Lots of people. One name?
Lots of people. I'm not going to pick a name, but if he continues at the rate
Who's the leader of the Democratic Party? You?
Well, we have a bunch of leaders.
So who's positioning themselves for a potential run for president in 2020? That's ahead.
And Michelle Obama's Healthy School Lunch Initiative is about to get tossed out. Well, like one of Michelle Obama's Healthy School lunches.
Delicious.
Lots of people.
Lots of people. One name?
Lots of people. I'm not going to pick a name, but if he continues at the rate
Who's the leader of the Democratic Party? You?
Well, we have a bunch of leaders. You know, I certainly am the leader of the Senate, and I try to help represent the Democratic Party, but we have a lot of very good voices. It's much too premature to handicap 2020.
It may not be as early as Senator Schumer thinks. On Sunday night, Joe Biden was at a Democratic Party rally in New Hampshire where he might have unofficially kicked off the 2020 nomination race.
Even though I know it caused a lot of speculations, guys, I'm not running, okay?
While the former VP continues to keep his name out of the hat, several other candidates keeping busy, campaigning for the midterm elections, raising money, and even going on book tours to get some face time with the voters. Joining us right now to sort out the possible field is Democratic strategist Taryn Rosenkranz. Taryn, thanks so much for joining us. Let's go through some of those names. Do you believe Biden's really out because of his advanced age and this was his time?
I think Chuck Schumer is right when he says that it's a little too premature for us to handicap 2020 quite yet. But I certainly think anything's possible. I mean, I think right now everybody's focused on 2018, and that's going to play out and really be the determining factor as who we see get in 2020.
It's just kind of weird if you believe that book Shattered. He was even taken serious by his own White House as a candidate. Elizabeth Warren has a book out now doing the tour. Is she testing the water? She's about the same age as Hillary Clinton.
I don't think Elizabeth Warren is just testing the waters. I think she's out there talking to the American people. She's got a book out. She's a senator. She's a national leader and voice for the Democratic Party. So she's out there and she's talking, and that makes sense. I think by any means, anyone who's going to get into this race in 2020 is going to be someone who has a wide national appeal.
And you looked at her as regional?
I don't. I know I'm saying that she's out there and she's talking across the nation, and I think anyone who is going to get in is going to have be out there talking to the nation so they know who they are and make sure that they are.
Bernie Sanders lets everyone know that he's not a Democrat, but he is the most popular on the left. So what are his thoughts about being maybe 78 by the time the next election rolls around?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, honestly, the qualifications to become president, whether it's age or gender or race or any of these things that we sort of thought were preconceived notions about who could be president and who couldn't, we're hoping we've broken through on. So I'm not going to write anyone out because of their age or for any other characteristic that they have.
Or being a socialist, which is not something we usually embrace. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is relatively silent outside, I believe, some military issues. She's somebody that keeps being pushed forward. Do you think that she's really testing the waters?
I think that Senator Gillibrand, particularly for those in the Senate, which most of the folks that we've talked about, except for Joe Biden, are in the Senate. I think they're really focused on trying to be, a front line of defense for the American people and making sure that we're getting things done and that we're finding compromise and that there's no two extremes on one end or the other as we're in this Republican-controlled Senate and House and presidency, right? So it's really on them to make sure that they're kind of pushing things forward. I think she's really focused on that, but that, again, could catapult her into the national stage and really make her a good contender for 2020.
You think she's been pushing compromise?
I think that everyone out there right now is trying to make sure that they're being the front line of defense for the American people because we want good jobs, we want health care, we want affordable education, and that's really what people are focused on, I think.
The person that I think is out front and clearly running is Senator Cory Booker. Would you agree?
No, I don't think that Cory Booker would agree either. I think he is another great example of he's a very powerful voice for the American people. People really relate to him and they really like him, and I think he's out there and he is totally focused on his role in the Senate right now and making sure, because he takes very seriously what he can progress for.
Yeah, very talented, huge, great education, mayor of Newark, and now senator from New Jersey. Thanks so much, Taryn. It's going to be interesting. Taryn Rosencrantz, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, keep in mind, keep an eye on Tim Ryan, too, out of Ohio. Meanwhile, Congress refuses to fund the border wall, so now states are taking measures into their own hands. Coming up, we're talking to one Texas lawmaker about his state's crackdown on sanctuary cities. And an FBI translator with top-secret clearance was asked to investigate a brutal terrorist. Then she turned around and married him.
We are back with a Fox News alert and an urgent new warning for Americans traveling to Europe. ISIS could be coming for you. The State Department now says that terror groups have the ability to execute attacks using explosives, guns, knives, and vehicles as ramming devices. We've seen that. Well, this follows a deadly year in Europe where 120 people were killed in attacks. The warning ends on September 1st. And no motive yet in this stabbing spree at one of the nation's largest universities. Police say that 21-year-old Kendrix White attacked students with a large hunting knife. One person was killed, 3 others wounded in the bloodbath at the University of Texas in Austin. Police tackling White to the ground to arrest him within 2 minutes. Steve?
Thank you, Heather. President Trump vowing to put an end to illegal immigration.
If you try to illegally enter the United States, you will be caught, detained, deported, or put in prison, and it will happen.
But with Congress failing to fulfill the president's budget proposals on border protection, now the states, some of them are stepping up and taking matters into their own hands because they can't trust Washington. Let's talk to somebody from Texas. Texas State Representative Max Schaefer helped the state House pass a bill taking on sanctuary cities this past week. He joins us live right now from Austin. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Steve.
All right, so tell us about the bill that you helped pass.
Well, in Texas, we have passed a strong sanctuary cities bill that is about public safety and the rule of law. We are not going to tolerate local law enforcement officials who refuse to honor detainer requests from immigration officials for criminal illegal aliens, or who prohibit their deputies or police officers from inquiring about a person's immigration status when they believe it's necessary as part of a criminal investigation.
Okay, so your part of the legislation was you actually added an amendment to it. Amendment 9 to the bill did what?
Well, the bill as it had come over from the Senate and then moved through the House, out of the House committee, it lacked some of the strong provisions that were needed to make the bill enforceable. So my amendment essentially put teeth back into the bill where necessary in order to send the strongest possible bill to Governor Abbott for him to sign.
Okay, and part of Amendment 9 allows cops to ask immigration status. Why do you, you would think that that's a no-brainer. If somebody is pulled over or something like that, you're going to ask them some questions like, what are you doing? Why are you going that fast? Where are you from? Give me your driver's license. This particularly says cops can ask about immigration status. I know you're from Tyler, Texas. Do most of the people in your neck of the woods feel that that should be something police officers should be able to ask?
Well, we believe that's already the current law. What we are concerned about is about a police chief or a county sheriff who would actually set a policy that tells their deputies or their police officers that they cannot inquire about a person's immigration status if they believe that that is necessary as part of a criminal investigation. So the law already says that if a police officer or deputy that they cannot pull someone over for the sole purpose of checking their immigration status.
Right.
That's not what this is about. But if they have lawfully detained someone for an investigation of a crime, and that police officer believes they need to check that person's immigration status, we want them to have the ability to do that.
Sure.
And unfortunately, there are law enforcement officials in Texas and around the country who want to prohibit that type of cooperation with our federal immigration officers.
Absolutely, and I think, I believe you're sitting in a county down there in Austin where the sheriff feels exactly that way. Before you go, I want to ask you about what's going on in Washington, D.C. This morning, our top story is the fact that it looks like the lights are not going to go off in Washington, D.C. They're going to fund the government for another 6 months or so. However, so many of the things the president had wanted he's not winding up getting, even though his own party supposedly was writing the bill. No border wall money, no deportation force, no EPA rollbacks. It will actually protect sanctuary city funding, funds Obamacare subsidies, funds Planned Parenthood, things like that. What's your observation from out there in Texas as to what's going on in Washington, D.C.?
Well, we've been fed up with Congress's inaction on this issue for many years. I support the wall. We support President Trump's request for funding for the wall, for more resources down on the border. If you think that there's not a problem with the border, you simply haven't been paying attention to what's really happening down here. We've been dealing with this problem for years in the state of Texas. We're tired of inaction. We want something to finally be done. And I think that's one of the reasons that President Trump was elected, because people in Texas and people around the country have said it's past time to really do something about what's happening on the border. It's time to put up or shut up. And we are ready for serious border enforcement to happen in the state of Texas.
Well, the president insists that wall will be built, just not getting any money this time from Congress. State Representative Matt Schaefer from Tyler, Texas. Sir, thank you very much for joining us live today from Austin.
Thank you.
You bet. All right, it is 6:30 now here in New York City. Straight ahead, horrified parishioners watched their church crumble around them during a deadly tornado outbreak down in Texas. Yet somehow, every single person, there were dozens of them inside, survived unhurt. And they think they know the reason why. You're going to hear from one of them next. And Tom Perez has not been shy when it comes to using four-letter words like this.
My mama taught me you shouldn't do potty talk, but I hope you don't mind because this is a budget.
Put a quarter in the swear jar, Tom. But it turns out there's one word he will never say, but we will. That's coming up. First, happy birthday to NASCAR star Kyle Busch. 32 candles on his cake today.
The topping dropping. This is a real problem. Wait, sorry. Is this a real problem? Probably not, but good news. We solved it anyway with the flavor-focused, fundamentally superfluous Frog. So you can pico all the pico guacamole, save your bacon with sweet maple seasoning, or get all the sweet onion BBQ for YOU.
It's your shot of the morning, and McDonald's unveiling the utensil you never knew you needed, a fork made of French fries.
Look at that.
No way.
This changes everything.
It does. It offers a convenient way to pick up toppings that might fall out of their signature burgers.
You can now pick up a fork at participating McDonald's
How do you
on
say it?
That's
Friday.
the guy from the OxyClean stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a real fake commercial.
I think it's something you can really get at
really
McDonald's
buy?
starting Friday, right?
Really? They picked the right guy.
appears-
So listen to this. I'm in the Bahamas for a wedding of a friend a few years ago. I'm on the beach, and this guy, I recognize the voice. It's that guy sitting next
Get
to me.
outta here.
He took his mom on vacation. We start talking. I'm like, you're the OxyClean guy.
And what did he say?
Yeah, that's this. Yep, that's me.
Right.
Now every time I see him, I'm like, hi, to my friend. Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much played your best card when you said you're the OxyClean guy because you don't know what to say next.
Right. I'm like, do you have a good sunscreen that you can get me?
Right, that's about it.
I bet. All right, so anyway, that's coming to McDonald's, it looks like, on Friday. In the meantime, some headlines are coming to your TV right now.
Yes.
All right, let's hand it over to Heather. Hey, Heather.
Good morning to you. To everyone at home, happening today, if you didn't know, President Trump set to talk with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. It is their first call since Russia announced the U.S. airstrike against Syria last month, following a deadly chemical attack by the Assad regime. Moscow continuing to stand behind the Syrian leader, and the afternoon phone call is the third since President Trump took office. An FBI translator with top secret clearance married the ISIS fighter that she was asked to investigate. The brutal terrorist known as David Cuthbert appearing in propaganda videos holding human heads. Well, CNN reports that Danielle Green fled to Syria to tie the knot, but within weeks she realized that the marriage was a mistake.